Welcome to another episode of Pursuit. We are going to be continuing our study. Before we get into it, Asha, what do you have for us?
Today we'll be doing a game of trivia.
Oh, I love. And
So
you were trying to keep the button from me.
Can you both reach it though? Like, okay. Okay, let's kick it off. Are you guys ready?
Always.
Okay.
Hold on. Actually, I'm not.
Watch
I'm sorry.
this whole table
too many
just
things
fall
in my way.
down.
I know.
Drinks are gonna go
I'm
flying.
really scared for Chad. Okay, just
Chad is in a short circuit because a Starbucks drink is gonna fall.
Oh my god! I don't know where to put it. All right, I'm ready.
okay.
I had to clear the space. If anything spilled, it wasn't gonna be mine.
What is the fastest animal?
His hand is very close to the button. Is that okay?
Yeah, it is from this angle. So put your hand just as close.
All right.
So what is the fastest animal?
Cheetah.
Correct. Where do you get sugar from?
Sugar?
Yeah.
It's a crystal. You can get it from many things.
What?
How she hit the buzzer without an answer?
I know. That's not the answer
Wait,
I'm
you
looking
can get
for,
sugar
ma'am.
from a lot
You get
of
it from
things.
sugar cane.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, but you can extract sugar from anything.
Ma'am, I don't make the rules. How many days are in a year?
Leap year or regular?
Regular.
365.
What was the first Disney princess?
Snow White?
Correct. Kevin, are you even...
You saw his face when you asked that. It was like, like he was like, oh no.
I really thought it would have been something more like obscure. That's why I
Okay.
was trying to think.
Wait. Hold on. What was the first toy to be advertised on television?
I don't even know that. Where is it?
I want to say something like Transformers or something random.
No, I think
Wrong.
it was before that.
Probably.
I don't
Can I
know.
go?
You just looked at the answer.
What did she say? Mr. Potato Head.
Yes.
Oh!
Yes. Did you?
He's that old?
Oh, okay. Okay. What is the name of Harry Potter's pet owl?
You better get it real.
I'm
Owly.
not a fiend.
Owly the owl.
That is wrong.
I'm about to deduct 2 points from you.
I
for
don't
saying
like Harry Potter, so it's fine.
I don't
You've
watch
been
it like
around
that.
long
N-
enough.
none of you have ever mentioned the owl's
No,
name.
Me. Well, yeah, we don't watch it like that.
Yeah, we do.
Can I get a hint?
It starts
It's-
with an H.
I was gonna ask if it starts with an H. Harold.
Can we get
Hank.
I'm sad.
Ha-
I'm just sad. So let's just move
What
on.
is
It's
it? What is it?
Hedwig.
Holly.
Hedwig.
Oh.
Yes.
Holly?
I was just like naming names that start with H.
I knew it was like some
Next was
random
Henry,
obscure British
and that's
one.
all the names I know that
All
start
right,
with H.
Let's continue.
Holly.
What's the next one?
Harold.
Which is the chemical name for common salt?
Sodium chloride.
Correct. Who wrote Romeo and Juliet?
Shakespeare.
Who?
William
What's his first
Shakespeare.
Correct.
Is that
He
who?
looks like Anne Hathaway's husband.
But I think Ariel's
fact.
winning. Kevin, are you even trying?
I'm trying. She's just too smart for me.
Okay.
Are you guys stumped
What
by your
sport is dubbed the king of sports?
What? What
Is
sport
dubbed-
is dubbed the king of sports?
And
Yes.
it's not cricket.
soccer?
Yeah.
Correct.
Don't ask me sports questions.
It's not like I'm
see.
better at sports.
Don't ask anyone sports questions.
Ask us more Disney princess questions.
Yeah.
With the amount of BuzzFeed quizzes we've done.
Stars and Stripes is the nickname of the flag of which country?
United States of America.
Puerto Rico.
Is it Puerto Rico?
Is
No.
Puerto Rico a country?
Oh, yeah. What was that you said about me being too smart?
Oh, Area 51 is located in which U.S. state?
Nevada.
Wrong. No, it isn't. He looks so sure, too.
It's the one thing I knew. It's like
Okay.
it's the one thing I was sure about this whole.
Last one.
Ooh.
What's the city with the most diversity in terms of language?
New York.
Absolutely correct.
I mean, she didn't say New York City.
She said state. Did you say state or city?
City.
It's the
New
same
York.
name.
New York City.
Yeah.
No, New York State and New York City are not the same.
I said the name is the same.
Oh.
I was trying to help you out, man. What are you attacking me for? Oh my God.
Because some people from New York State try to say that they're from New York.
Gave you a
and they mean the
compliment.
city, you know.
I try to help you out.
I appreciate you. That was the last one. Who won?
Chat.
I think no one did.
The answer.
I'm like, should I?
We good? Okay. All right. Wasn't that riveting? No? It's because he's a loser.
Hit the button. Hit the
Speaking of, Jesus put himself in situations with a lot of what people would consider to be losers. Am I right?
Did he now? Tell us more.
They were like the outcasts, the weird people, you know.
Just want to say this is so funny because I'm just seeing like your head. Continue.
Yeah. So Jesus put himself in close proximity to a lot of the people that were considered outcasts. You know, no one wanted to be associated with them. And so today we're going to be talking about that.
Okay.
So, question. What are some reasons that you would choose a city to live in? Choose to live in a certain city. Sorry.
I think honestly, the first thing popping in my head is like what food is available, honestly. But I feel like more reasonable answer would be like probably proximity to career and or like family. I think those are probably like the two top priorities for most people. For me, it is going to be food. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times we pick places to habitate to live. I don't know what's happening with me today, guys, but you're in for a ride.
And she's the smart one.
Depends on the context, really. But yeah, a lot of times we pick areas to live in because they're comfortable to us, right? They're like further away from what we might consider to be the messy parts of life, right? So like you'll pick an area that's seems to fit your vibe or what it is that you're looking for out of life, right? Cleaner areas, you know. If
Wow,
you
I
have
didn't even
kids, you
think
look
about
for
that.
you look for somewhere with a good school district, right?
If it's
certain
safe.
things like that.
I'm over here like, what food do you
You
have?
live in Richmond Hill.
What
If
does that
If you're
mean?
not comfortable here, safety.
Said it, first of all, you've never even lived in Richmond Hill
I haven't.
to say it like that.
I lived in Jamaica, Queens.
But that's not Richmond Hill.
I know, but I'm just saying they're both not the safest. So,
I want to redo on this trivia game and take
why?
it serious next time. But anyway, continue.
Right, so those are some of the different reasons we'd pick to live in an area, right? But when you read the Gospels, right, and you read through the Word, you kind of see that Jesus usually put himself in the messy situations, right, or in close proximity to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times from the bird's eye view, right, from looking down, or from like, let's say we're in like a penthouse, right?
I understood what bird's eye
Okay.
view meant. Just because you're smarter than me doesn't mean I'm dumb.
I mean, if I'm smarter than you, depends on the context with which I know. Anyway, from bird's eye view, things often look a lot better than they are, right? So when you're zoomed out or looking further away, you can't really see the problems that are happening on a smaller scale. So you don't really have to think about the people that are like walking the street, like that have real life problems, everyday problems, or like that are going through things. But from that bird's eye view, can you impact the street?
I want to say yes, but I feel like you want me to say no.
So I feel like the correct answer would be no, given the context that I was just speaking of.
Correct.
Because if you can't see the problem, how can you fix it?
Right. But I'm also just thinking like a bird can just pick something up and just drop it and create a whole new set of problems.
Yeah, but we're talking about fixing the problems.
Maybe that may fix it.
Creating new problems will fix the existing problems.
Sometimes I don't really know where I'm going with the analogy, to be honest.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of trying to see
I'm
where
just
it went.
gonna. All right.
Yeah. So, again, if we're out of touch with the problem, how can we come up with a solution? Or can we come up with a solution?
No, we can't.
Correct. So, as believers,
It just looks so funny because I can't see what you're doing.
oh my
So I'm
gosh, I
like-
could have him hold my phone. You're so good, bud. So, as believers, right, we're called to go out into the world, right, to come into contact with those people that are on the street and to kind of bring them to God if they aren't already there. How are we supposed to do that when we're looking down?
I mean, I don't think we really can. My bad analogy aside.
Oh yeah, start new problems.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you are, I think just as you were saying, out of touch,
Mhm.
there's no way you can really solve the problem, at that kind of local scale, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can unless it's such a universal issue, I guess,
Okay.
right? Where like,
Like
the
world
an-
hunger. Well, it's
I
not
get-
universal, but,
but-
it is a bigger scale.
yeah, like something that's a little,
Mhm.
just a simple fix. But I think
Oh, okay.
when we're talking about people, especially, I think sometimes the solution is not always. We can't treat it as a, the problem may be the same for two people, but I think sometimes the solution has to be catered towards the person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're zoomed out, if you have that bird's eye view, or if you're viewing it from the penthouse, as you were initially saying, I don't think you're going to be able to solve the problem. You have to, as I guess Jesus was doing, was kind of get in the mess sometimes with them to solve it. Yeah.
So like from this side, I don't even see like half of your mouth. So I just see like mustache up. But yeah, you can't really fix the problem from that high up. So in John 13 verse 34, I have the NLT up. It says, "So now I'm giving you a new commandment: love each other, just as I have loved you. You should love each other." So it seems like a seemingly basic commandment or like instruction to give, but how can we show people that we do in fact love them if we're all the way up here? Is that something that is plausible?
No.
Correct.
Should I elaborate, or?
If you would like.
So I was gonna say, I think.
Yeah, but I never know if the explanation is also going to be correct, so I had to like,
Thank you. I
credit
appreciate
where
that.
I get it.
Get partial credit. I appreciate that. So I was gonna say, I think that ultimately we would have to kind of leave our penthouse, our perch on top, and come down to them. I think sometimes that act alone
Mm-hmm.
is showing people love, and then of course is actually trying to just not just coming down to where they are, but I
Mhm.
think standing with them, because I do think there's a difference between, hey, this and this is happening, and you standing in the vicinity of the issue,
Okay.
and actually standing with someone. I think those are two different things, and I think obviously standing with someone, kind of like shoulder to shoulder in a sense,
Yeah.
I think that's probably the greater act of love if we're gonna get that into that much detail about it. But I think that may be the greater
Sorry.
thing.
Yeah. So we can't really love people until we come into contact with them and like get a one-on-one perspective on what it is that they're going through, right? So, I mean, I can claim to love the world, right? Or love the people of the world, but until I actually know at least a little bit about them, it's just going to be a superficial kind of I love you with the love of God type of thing. Right?
You just angered a lot of people with that, but keep going.
I mean, sorry? Because like I feel like I'm just going to keep digging a hole, but like
Go for it.
I feel like no, I will not. Because I know when I say that, it's just kind of like, yeah, God says to love you, so I will love you. But I don't, like, it's just like a baseline level of like love. There's no like real, like, I don't know enough about you to say that I genuinely do love you, I think.
So, okay. But then what?
Like, I love you as a human being, like as a person that I've seen. But it's not like a deep emotional love that I can say that like I have for a friend.
It's not a wait. Say it's on a deep.
Like emotional love that I can say like if I have for a friend.
Well, I think those are two different types of love, though.
Yeah. That's
So
what I mean. That's what I'm saying. There are many different types of love.
all right. I feel like you were saying something else, but maybe I just heard you wrong. Then all right, keep going. Then you're good. You dug yourself out the hole. Good job.
Nice. Doesn't happen often.
Does not. I love this.
All right. So, in Mark chapter 5 verse 1 to 20, right? The general synopsis of this passage is Jesus, after preaching for a long night or a long day, he and the disciples, he was like, "Hey, we're going to go somewhere else right now." They went on their boat, they sailed across the river. Woo, that's them sailing, you know. They This is not Christopher Columbus. All right. So they sailed. They went to this other like remote kind of town, city, place, and there was a man that was possessed with a multitude of demons. So Jesus went there, like basically with the intent of delivering this man, right? As someone that is reading this, you can kind of see that that's why he went. So the man was constantly chained and like tied up and like barricaded, restricted, whatever. But every time he would break loose and end up like self-harming. He kind of stayed excuse me. He stayed in a cave that's and he was also in a very like what we would consider a really dangerous like part of town or city or whatever. So the fact that Jesus went out of his way to see this man alone was a big step, right? So that was him stepping down from what others might consider to be like that bird's eye view of when he was preaching in safer towns to go see this man. Why does Jesus put himself in that proximity of like dangerous people or like like unpleasant situations?
Well, I think that though he's God, and yes, he could have probably just snapped his fingers
From
and-
wherever he was. Right?
Yeah, and the guy would have just been delivered. Because I do know there is the story of is it the centurion? I want to say the soldier who comes to Jesus and Jesus says, "Just go and like
Oh yeah.
the person
Like your
is going to be
faith
healed."
is-
Yeah. Or the soldier approaches him and says, "Hey, you have authority, and if you tell
Yes.
me, my child or servant or whoever it was is going to be healed," and Jesus does that. So obviously Jesus has the ability to work over like distances,
Mhm.
but I think when it comes to most cases, Jesus wants people, I think, to know one, it's him that's doing this. Because I think had he snapped his fingers while he was on like the boat before he got off, and people saw this guy okay, I think some people would wonder, oh, he's just not having like an episode right now.
Yep.
Right. I think the other thing would have been people wouldn't know who to kind of attribute
Attribute
the
it.
deliverance to.
Mm.
So I think him being there with this man and putting himself in this dangerous situation, right? It allows people to actually see the power of God, the glory of God,
Yeah.
because now people know without any doubt, oh no, it was Jesus that delivered him, right? There's no question about it.
Yeah, so even towards the end of like this passage, the man goes to Jesus and he's like, "Hey, I want to follow you. Like I would like to go where you go." And Jesus kind of made it a point to tell him to be like, "Hey, no, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your hometown and tell them who it is that did this and what you were like before, right? So, you're going to go spread the gospel, spread the word that I am who I say I am." Right? And it's important to note that like as you were saying, like if Jesus hadn't gone there physically and done this, first of all, no one would have known that he was really fully delivered, right? And second, it would have just I feel like it just further cements the fact that Jesus is who he said he was, right? He was like, I am the Messiah. I have come to this earth to do these things so that you can know and believe in your hearts that I am the Messiah. So, hold on. Yeah, so because he knew what the outcome would be, he knew the power that he held and like the real purpose of him going there. Because even the disciples were like, why are we even coming to this town? Like, it's just a dangerous city. There's nothing here for you. But the fact that they also were like obedient to him and like despite being like reluctant at first, they went along with it and they went there. They also had they were also a witness to this great testament of who God is. So the fact that God has commanded us to love, first of all, which we referenced before in John 13:34. And in this scripture, Jesus went to this man and showed him that love and that kindness by delivering him from those demons, right? And making a positive example out of him. It's kind of like it's kind of a simple principle, right? Of the fact that we should love and show love to the people around us. But we still put boundaries on who gets to that proximity of love within us. Why do we do that?
Well, I think sometimes we want to protect ourselves, right? I think sometimes it takes for even looking at the life of Jesus, right? And obviously the 12 disciples were extremely close to Jesus, but he also knew that Judas was going to betray him, right? And I'm sure that had to have hurt, even though he knew it was going to happen,
Yep.
right? Then on top of that, Peter denies him 3 times, not betrays, but denies him 3 times, right? That also had to sting, right? When Jesus makes a point of saying, I'm not going to deny you guys, but Peter then denies him. So I think looking at that to love, I think at the level that Jesus loved people, it requires us to essentially be vulnerable, and that can be scary for people.
Yeah. I think, yes. So a lot of times it is very scary to be vulnerable because when you come down from that like bird's eye view, right, and you make contact with people that are around you on the street, it's not just like they're just telling you whatever's happening in their life, right? You have to build a relationship to get to that point. You have to share some of yourself in order to get something from someone else, right? And a lot of times it's that vulnerability that kind of shies people away from showing that love or from building that relationship to where I can say that I love you and I want so much better for you and like actively really trying to do it. But how can we overcome that vulnerability?
I don't know.
No, I'm kidding. It is really hard. I feel like I myself am working on that all the time, but I think that we can kind of work on, or I guess, do you guys have an answer as well? Throwing it out to anyone. I think I have worked on overcoming that feeling of like closing myself off or becoming vulnerable by taking my problems to God, right? So like he's called us to love and he has shown me his love time and time again throughout my life. So I kind of try to use that as like little examples of how I can show love to others that doesn't have to be like a grand big like gesture.
Well, I also think that to kind of build off what you're saying, I think if we're able to be essentially vulnerable with God, so I think it's easy to have issues and kind of surface level pray about them
Hmm.
to God and never actually get to the root cause of issues and things like that.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be hard for you to be open and vulnerable with someone else
Hmm.
when you yourself can't do it with yourself, right? Or with you and God. So I think one of the first things, as you're saying, when it's not just taking your problems to God, but I think it's that added layer of I'm actually going to be open with God and really kind of put like bare my heart out to God, right? I think of I forget her name, but the prophet Samuel's mother, right? The
Mm.
prayer she has because she can't have kids, right? I believe, if I remember the story correctly, I believe the priest thought she was drunk or something like that with the prayer she was having. I'm getting a nod, yet, right? Yeah, she was like crying and things like that, and
Yeah,
he
like
thought,
hysterical, kind
right,
of.
and he thinks she's drunk, and I think that kind of paints the picture of just how she's bearing like her heart and soul to God in that moment.
Hmm.
And I think if we want to to show that type of love to people, we have to be able first to do it ourselves with God,
Hmm.
right? I think to some degree it's wrong of us to ask. It's wrong of me to ask you to do that when I myself am not willing to do it,
Yep.
right? So I think, and this goes back to what I was saying before, right? There's being in the vicinity of what's happening,
Hmm.
and then there's actually standing shoulder to shoulder with someone. And I
Yep.
think it takes that ability to go to God and say, God, I messed up, but like, here's what's actually happening. Here's what's in
Yep.
my heart. Here's what's I'm feeling in my mind. Here's everything I'm feeling, right? Guide me through this situation. Lead me through this situation. Help me come out of this better, or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
And now then you can go and talk to someone. I think in some degree that kind of creates almost like a universality. I don't
Like
know
a
if that's a
shared
word.
experience, kind of thing.
Yeah, because you can be going through something totally different or something that I may never experience,
Yep.
but I can help you through it because I at least know, hey, I may not have experienced it, but I know that if you're willing to not necessarily be open with me, but if you're willing to be open with God, right? He can actually bring you through this. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the bigger things where sometimes we get tripped up with, well, I've never been in the situation that you've been in, so I don't know how to help you. Or
Yeah.
I think it's not that God is looking for us to have a shared experience in the problem, but I think if we can share maybe in the steps towards getting to the right solution.
Yeah, I think also a lot of times people just want someone that'll listen to them, right? That'll validate their feelings to be like, "Hey, that is a really unpleasant situation." And it's totally okay that you feel this way. But these are what we can do to help us feel better, right? To get out of the situation, to work on it. And I think that's where it is that we are called to work, right? So, like, I can love you and I can sympathize or empathize with you, but what are we doing to move forward with it, right? How are we going to get ourselves out of the situation? How are we going to elevate ourselves in this?
And I think that's really the crucial part of it, because I think a lot of people, or I think like culturally, we've gotten to a place where it's like, hey, what you're feeling is valid, and then we kind of stop
Stop it
there,
there, yeah.
right? And we never take it a step further where, yeah, you feel this way, but how do we now move you to a place where it's you're healthy mentally or emotionally or spiritually or
Mhm.
physically or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And I think when you look at what Jesus often does is he will meet them where they are, but he doesn't leave them
Yes.
in that place,
Exactly.
right? And I think that's one of the crucial things that we have to kind of remember, where as believers we have this hope that we find in Christ. And it's a shame when we meet someone who's going through something and we're like, yeah, that sucks, and then we kind of just walk away,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like I used to do that a lot, but it was because I never really knew how to have those tough conversations, right? So like especially growing up, like it's hard to be vulnerable by yourself, right? Sometimes, well, for me it was, let alone with someone else, or let alone with God, right? But as you grow up, well, as I grew up, I learned how to be vulnerable, like to like even just with by myself, be like, hey, we're actually feeling these things, right? Because a lot of times I just compartmentalize things, right? I put them in their box, I put them away. Like I've talked about that before, and I'll
We
talk
know,
about it
we
again
know.
probably. But but like it's important to feel what you're feeling. But
Mhm.
it's even more important not to just sit in the fact that you're feeling what you're feeling for way too long.
Right. And I think like some some things happened recently, and I remember I didn't know what to say, so I just kind of showed up for people and I just stood there silently. Right? That like honestly, that was the best thing I think I could have
Mm-hmm.
done. Right? So that's what I did. There was someone else there who was just like, well, that's life. Get used to it. And I was like, that is cold.
Oh.
That was I was just like, oh, we're just and then like right after that, like we all left, and I was like, you just said that to someone and you just dipped? Like that's
It do be like that though.
I was like, wow,
Could you
that was
imagine?
cold.
Just poured your heart out to me. I'm just like, it'd be like that.
I was
Just
I was like
such
that
is
like,
life.
you know, um
But a lot of times people think that's like, oh, it's just tough love. But not every situation calls for tough love.
I so
Oh.
I also think with tough love, right, you have to you almost have to earn
The right?
the right to demonstrate tough love with a
Mhm.
person, right?
Yeah.
It can't be like, you just meet like a drug addict on like the street and I'm gonna show him tough love. You don't know
They
this
will beat
person,
you up.
right? Right? Now it's different though when it's maybe the drug, like I've always heard these stories of like parents who have
A kid
a
that's like,
kid that's a drug addict, and you know if they don't show that tough love, they end up just enabling him to keep the
mhm.
addiction going. So they have to kind of, to some degree, kind of
Yeah.
cut them off and really set strict boundaries, right? Not because they want to put distance, but if they don't, the
Yep.
problem isn't going to get any better,
Yep.
right? I think that's totally different than a stranger just kind of like, I'm going to show you some tough love today, right? So I do think when we talk about tough love, you to some degree kind of have to earn the right to do that. Um, and I think just because you're close to someone doesn't earn you that right
No, it
either.
doesn't. Yeah.
Because again, the same thing. Um, I've heard stories of, again, like especially parents that when they have a strict upbringing,
Mhm.
and then you do that with the kid, but it's like just and it's well, I'm the parent, so
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna be tough, and it's like I don't
You can be a parent and be nice to them.
want to see what the comments are gonna be about the fact that we're not parents talking about parenting.
But I'm a child that has parents.
That's not a parent though.
Well, I'm as a person that has parents.
I
That are
almost
nice
thought you
to
said you were
them.
about to be a parent. And I was like, well, where's this
Absolutely
going?
not. Literally,
Where is this
physically
going?
impossible.
Okay, we're just gonna zip past that. Okay.
But as a child that has parents, you can be parents and be nice to your child and still have that figure of authority. Like that doesn't negate like the level of respect your children have for you. In fact, it helps to build it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but very seriously, as a parent, I think that one of the harder things as a parent is trying to break some of the things that your
Mhm.
parents did with you. So it is very possible to correct a child in love, as the Bible calls us to do. But I think that's something that's learned, and it's something that you have to be.
I feel like you have to be very mindful of the fact.
You have to be mindful, and you have to be committed
Yep.
to doing things differently.
Mhm.
And you have to be aware of certain signs. Because, for example, when I was a kid, I had massive anxiety and I would like scratch at my skin all the time. And my mom didn't know what okay, so I would have like these attacks and my mom didn't know what it was, but now I know what that is. It was anxiety. So now I can watch for signs in my kids so I can be helpful for them. So it definitely is possible to be nice to your children. Please be nice to your
Please
children.
be nice to your children. They're also going through a lot.
Yes.
I feel like that was a cry for help there.
No, I'm fine.
Doesn't your mom watch the podcast?
Yeah.
Drop a GoFundMe on the bottom.
No, I'm fine. I'm well enough. You know.
All
You know
right.
when people ask me how I'm doing now, I just say I'm well enough, because it's like,
Honestly, that seems sadder than just saying you're having a bad day.
no, well, I'm well enough. You know, because what am I gonna? Because okay, so one time my manager, he went up to me, he's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I was like, "Not honestly, not great," and he just didn't know what to say. So now I just say I'm well enough, and he's like, "Okay."
I hit them with the I'm trying.
I'm
trying.
trying.
Trying my best today.
My coworker gets so mad because I'll do like the crying voice, even when I'm like I'm fine. It's like yeah, I'm fine, and he gets really mad at me.
The opener for the next.
Anyways, go out into the world and do it with love. Amen.
I love how we just went so way off topic,
We
and then we're
did.
just like, all right, we're done. We're
Yeah.
done here.